In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a good sounding organ inside FL Studio using Sytrus, and it's going to sound like this. What's up, my producer friends? I'm David with anothermonsterproductions.com. If you're new to the channel, I do a lot of FL Studio and production related tutorials, as well as a lot of sound design tutorials, and specifically I do a lot of sound design tutorials inside stock FL Studio plugins. So if you like this tutorial and you want to watch more, I definitely have a lot more on the channel. Also, if you don't know, Sytrus is a stock FL Studio plugin that comes with the producer edition of FL Studio. So as long as you have at least the producer edition of FL Studio, you'll be able to follow along with everything in the tutorial. And with all that being said, let's get straight into it. So last week I did a tutorial where I showed you how to make your own custom single cycle wave shapes and then put them inside a folder, kind of like this one. This is my custom wave shape folder. And the reason for doing this is it can ultimately make things a lot quicker for you when you're creating sounds from scratch inside these stock plugins. So for example, I can just drag one of these sounds and put it directly into the wave shape. And then we have our wave shape. I can start making sounds that way. So we are going to be using this Organ 1 and Organ 2 preset out of this pack. And so if you really want to follow along with everything, I recommend you go ahead and download this pack now. There's a link in the description of this video, and I'll also leave a link in the pinned comment as well. So go ahead and pause the video, download it, and then we'll get right back into it. Now, technically you don't have to use these presets because you can technically create them yourself. And the way that you do that inside Sytrus is you go into your oscillator tab right here, and then you can see exactly what the waveform looks like in terms of how you would create it. So each one of these little things is a harmonic, and then down here we have our harmonic phase. So if I go up here and go to presets, I can go back to a default preset, and then I can essentially kind of create my own preset just from memory. I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but it was something like this. I actually don't remember at all. And then it had like these. And then I know the phase was like this, and then it went all on a ways. So essentially you can experiment with this on your own and create your own custom wave shapes that way. Now let's go ahead and just start from scratch here. I'm gonna go back up and we're gonna go to presets and we're gonna go to default. And this will get us a default preset, which is just a sine wave. So first things first, let's go ahead and drag our Organ 1 onto our Operator 1. And then let's go into our Operator 2 and we'll drag our Organ 2 onto our Operator 2. And what that should sound like right now is this. So all we have going on right now is technically just Operator 1 is going out here. And what I want to actually do is route Operator 1 and Operator 2 going out of Filter 1. And that way we can run it through a filter as well. So I can turn this down. If I just hit Alt and then click it, it'll go back to its default value, which is essentially 0. And then I can bring it out here. This is Filter 1, and then I can bring Operator 1 up all the way up, and I can bring Operator 2 all the way up as well. So let's take a listen to that. Okay, so that's what it should sound like right now. Let's make sure that we're still in Operator 2 here, and I want to turn this frequency ratio down to 1, which will bring Operator 2 down an octave. Okay, cool. So that sounds a lot better to me. Now, the next thing that I want to do here is actually go into my main tab, and we're going to turn the global pitch, which is right here, down another octave, which is -12 semitones. And the reason for this is just that in the position of the keyboard, this is middle C here. And to me, that just sounds like the best place where this organ should be located pitch-wise on the keyboard. So middle C, down an octave, up an octave. Okay, cool. So we're able to get a pretty decent organ sound just by using those two presets, routing it through this filter. And by the way, the cutoff is set to 50%. So if I want to, you can hear that, especially up higher. So we can adjust the filter if we want to, but for now, I'm going to leave this on 50%. Now, the next thing that I want to do here is route this through the effects tab and get kind of a chorus effect going on. So what the chorus effect does is it creates multiple voices, which is going to really help turn this into more of an organ sound. So by default, we have our chorus already on. It's set to 4 voices. So all I have to do here is turn the effects up. I'm just going to turn it all the way up to 100%, and then let's take a listen. Okay, so that sounds much better, starting to sound a lot more like an organ. Now, potentially if you want to, you can experiment with some of these settings, but I like it just the way that it is. I'm just going to leave it as is. And what I want to do is go back into operator 2. And the thing that we're missing with this organ sound is sometimes you'll hear this organ effect where the pitch is modulated and it's moving really fast. It's kind of like a tremolo effect. So that's what I want to create with this organ. And the way that I can do that is with the LFO mapped to the pitch envelope. So if I go into my pitch tab here, again, make sure you're in operator 2. I can go to my LFO and I can go down here and enable it. Let's go ahead and make sure we link it to the tempo. And then we need to delete all of these points here. So that's going to allow us to be able to go up and down and create our LFO shape, whichever way we want it. So for now, let's just set this somewhere random. And I want to go ahead and turn the speed up quite a bit. So I want this to basically be like 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Every measure or every bar has about 4 cycles where it's going up and down. This was sort of the speed that I found to be the best. Now you can of course experiment with the speed on your own, but let's take a listen to that. Okay, so that's way too much. Let me turn this down to about 5% or so. We'll just do 6% is probably fine. Okay, so it's still kind of a lot. Let's see what happens if we bring the pitch envelope down here. Okay, so we can set this to where we want it. I'm going to set it to about 300. Another thing that we can do here is this button here, which is the LFO tension. If I bring this all the way to the right, it creates more of like a squared off effect. You can kind of see that here. And to me, it just sounds a little bit more organy to go with this shape instead of the triangle. Okay, cool. So that sounds pretty good. Now it's up to you if you want to add this same processing onto operator 1 as well. Personally, I did not like the way that it sounded, but if you do want to do it and you want to copy all the values, if you go back into operator 2, for example, the speed is the main one that you want to make sure you get the same. You can right click this knob and then go to copy value. And then in operator 1, we can right click this and go to paste value, and it'll put it in the same spot. Now this is not enabled, and obviously you need to get rid of all those points and everything for it to work properly, but you get the point. Okay, so the last thing that we need to ask ourselves is, do we like the attack, decay, sustain, and release of this sound? Because right now, when I play it, it kicks in immediately and then it cuts out immediately. But I'd like to experiment a little bit with what it would sound like if we added an envelope on it. So make sure that you go, first of all, I'm in my operator 1. If I go into my volume tab and then I go into my envelope tab, I can enable my envelope and I can bring this basically all the way back. Maybe just a little tiny bit of, it's not hitting exact. And then I can bring this release all the way back to about here. It sounds a little weird because we got to do it to each one of these operators. Let's try operator 2. We'll do the same thing here. So I'll bring this back, enable it, and then bring this release to there. So to me, I kind of like that. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. We'll do the same thing here. It's still releasing almost immediately, but it just has a little bit more of an organic feel. So you can play with that on your own. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Go ahead and leave a comment if you have any sort of requests in terms of other sounds you want me to make inside Sytrus or other stock FL Studio plugins. Also, if you're struggling with anything production related, or if you're brand new to music production, I do offer one-on-one private lessons, which you can sign up for on my website. So again, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description of the video if you guys want to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.